I look at it like this. So my dad, he raised King Kong. I have a big brother who's another King Kong. And there's a safety net involved when you deal with men of character. Welcome to The Blended. My name is Eric. I'm your host. I'm here with Ann.
Your part-time co-host, person to bounce stuff off of, keep you in check when you get out of line.
Yep. That happens most of the time. Yeah, I appreciate that. Sometimes I go on a tangent and Ann kind of reels me back in and says, chill out. There's other people's opinion in here. Today's show, we're going to be talking about Tug of War. And that Tug of War comes from within the blended family.
About the metaphorical tug of war, the power that's trying to be utilized back and forth between you and your spouse in this blended family, and how to manage everyone.
That's a good word too, manage, because when I think of management, most times you think of a structure where there's different levels, right? There's different levels to this. And in a blended family, that is the same, right? I come from a nuclear family where my mom and dad, their roles were clearly defined. It just happened. But I believe, and I have to ask my mom and dad later, but I do believe that their roles were defined based on their personalities, based on their belief systems, whether it be religion, based on how my grandfather raised my dad, and vice versa for my mom. What I realized in a blended family, that's not how it works. You see, in a blended family, most times the roles are defined based on biology. And that is a tricky place to be because, I mean, think about it. Think if we want to play good cop, bad cop, and you've never been a good cop or you've never been a bad cop. How do you navigate that?
Having the fundamental understandings between each other to say, okay, I agree with this or I don't agree with this. Right. And then having to have the conversation of, I guess we're just not on the same page about this. Because you've raised up to this point your children XYZ, and now I'm coming in with ABC. You
can have these different fractures in the foundation. For example, you can have, a little stress fracture. So let's take, for example, if you have, you happen to disagree with me on something small. And I say, okay, you don't mind if the kids stay out late, 9 o'clock. When I grew up, that age demographic is going to bed at 7. Okay, so maybe we disagree on that. We kind of just let that slide. But throughout the relationship, there's going to be some core fundamental things that we're just going to disagree with. And some of those things are huge. I mean, some of those things can be respect. I remember growing up, it was yes and yeah. Some of my friends, their mom would say, you heard me? And they would say, yeah, mom. And I'll be thinking, boy, if I ever said yeah to my mom, that was a problem. So something which may seem simple, depending on how you were raised, can be something big. So back to the foundation thing of really laying down that foundation. But most times we don't have that luxury. I know in our family, we didn't have that luxury, or we just didn't do it. Lay down this strong, humongous foundation. We fell in love and kind of just jumped in. And so we had from stress fractures to some breaks to some compound fractures, taking in water. I mean, sometimes it felt like the foundation was just floating because of that. That when that sinkhole falls in, that I believe, talking about myself, that I tried to be a safety net. Did I do everything right? Heck no. Some of these people that are listening to this right now will remember some of those conversations we've had over the years. My kids will be like, what? Safety net? You were the agitator. So I was different roles, but at the end of the day, based on the heavy lifting that I was willing to do, a consistent heavy lifting of the responsibilities that are required as a father, the safety net was there. So when there was a gaping hole in there, we didn't fall too far. We fell. Sometimes it was uncomfortable sleeping. Sometimes the octaves in the family were higher than they ought to be. Sometimes we had just this, it didn't feel loving because we were all making mistakes, but underneath that foundation definitely was a safety net.
It's important to remember how vital respect is. Underneath it all, I can dislike you, I can disagree with you, we can agree to disagree. At the end of the day, I'm not walking out that door. I'm here next to you.
And so sometimes from the smallest to the biggest ideas were challenged. And I think there came a point where the kids were able to kind of take advantage of that. I probably could have just stayed quiet in a lot of these tug of wars. So I think when it comes to how to avoid the tug of war, like if I had to do it all over again, I'm sure me and my wife would have built a foundation before we've entered into such a dynamic situation. We would have known each other. We would have known each other's parents, so she can look and say, oh, that's how you talk to your mother. Oh, that's how you talk to your dad. Oh, how do you honor your dad? How do you honor your mother? How do you do not honor your mother? That's how your brothers and sisters interact. Oh, you got a little upset about something that wasn't that big. Oh, you're kind of nonchalant about, we could have observed each other a little bit more, and if we would have took the time to observe each other a little bit more, maybe we would have, our communication would have been a little bit more on point on what our behaviors are going to be like.
So what would you say kept you guys together in the rough times, right? Because you said, like in episode 1, there was some nights where the bed next to you, the person next to you, was feeling cold. You know, we weren't playing footsies anymore underneath the sheet. So what gets you through those times?
Fight or flight. Like, I love my wife, and I'm not going nowhere, and I'm not going to make a catastrophic decision. We're not, and neither is she. Like, we're not, it's like you said earlier, we're not sleeping outside the house. I'm not getting angry and saying I'm going over my brother's house, going over my sister's house, and having a humongous, in our relationship, I say especially for me, having a support system outside of, you know, your family, but people who really love you and have a vested interest in the survival of your marriage and the survival of your you know, your family life. And I had that, and my wife had that. You know, I was able to go to my brother. You know, there's a show coming up. I'll do a little teaser out there called 36 Holes. And just to throw a little teaser out there, that is us playing 36 holes. And guess what? In that 36 holes, we probably hit about, I don't know, 8 balls, right? Because in that 36 holes, we're just talking about our families and what and how to be successful and have people that are honest around you that can say, dang man, but you talk too much. Why you let that one go? Was that worth it? Was that worth it? I had sisters that I'm able to see the other side, and my big sister Lisa could be like, yo, shut it down. You wildin'. Like, that's not necessary.
In a relationship, with children or not, you learn you have to pick your battles. It is what it is. You'll learn. That takes, and this thing that talks about having to learn to pick your battles, it's only by trial and error. Yeah. It's only by saying, hindsight 2020, that really wasn't worth it. I could have let that one slide. It comes down to respect, reliability, repeat. Every day. Respect, reliability, repeat.
Respect. I'm going to respect you, even though sometimes my words might be harsh, and I'm sorry, because you learn every day, right? And a genuine care that I know you're not trying to hurt me, although that's difficult. I'll be the first one to fall on my sword and say, I'm a sensitive soul. I am a sensitive soul. I get it from my father, not my mama. I get it from my father, but I'm a sensitive soul. Most of us Armstead men are, and sometimes that can translate to I misunderstand what you're saying, or I look at the worst in it. The funny part is I never remember my wife saying to me, hey babe, I think I'm gonna need you to go ahead and take on that responsibility. I never remember her saying that, right? So that just told me that there was a void that was there, and that void will affect these young people throughout their lives. And so, of course, I jumped into autopilot without the manual, right? Because I had never raised someone else's children. So I jumped in, and through trial and error and trying to understand them, and like I said, so many things I wish I could have done differently. But hindsight being 2020, but again, the goal was to raise adult women who are strong and could take on this world, and I think me and my wife did a great job at that. At the end of the day, I'll reference what you said, and that's reliability and respect, and I'll throw a C word in there for communication, so that you're able to lay it out, set the foundation, proper communication, don't lose respect, make sure you're able to rely on each other, and then accept your glory later.